Exercise A-2. Question 1. Calculate square root of 49. We are looking for the number that multiplies itself to give 49. So the result is 7. Square root of 25 is 5 because 5 times 5 is 25. The square root of 169 is 13 because 13 times 13 is 169. For bigger numbers like square root of 169, you can use the square root button on your calculator to find the answer. Question 2. A triangle has side lengths of 8 centimeters, 5 centimeters, and 10 centimeters. Is the triangle a right triangle? Justify. In class, we know that if we have a right triangle, the square of the hypotenuse, the longest side, should equal to the square of the legs added up together. So we can use that rule to check or justify what kind of triangle this is. The two shortest sides, 8 centimeters and 5 centimeters, I will square them and add them up together and see if this sum is equal to the square of the longest side, 10. So I am working separately, left side and right side. 8 squared is 64. Plus 5 squared is 25. Is it equal to 10 squared, which is 100? We continue to add the numbers on the left. So 64 plus 25 is 89. But this is not the same as 100. Therefore, we do not have a right triangle because these side lengths do not follow the Pythagorean theorem. Having mentioned the Pythagorean theorem, remember that we can use the Pythagorean theorem only in right triangles to find one missing length. If we are looking for the longest side, which is across from the right angle, or the hypotenuse, that's what it's called, then we will use this version of the Pythagorean theorem. H squared equals 5 squared plus 12 squared. So continue to check your work, simplify the answers, and you get hypotenuse equals 13 centimeters. Instead of finding the hypotenuse, sometimes I may be asked to find the length of a leg or one of the shorter sides in the right triangle. If this is the case, we saw that in class we can use a slightly different version of the Pythagorean theorem. We can say that the missing length A squared equals the square of the hypotenuse, so always the bigger number, so 11.6 squared minus the square of the other leg, 9.5. So use your calculator to find each of these squares carefully. Subtract the two numbers. You get 44.31. This is equal to A squared. And then use the square root button to find that A is equal to 6.7 centimeters. Number 4. Ali walks along the path through the park. How far does Ali walk? So here's a diagram. It shows that the path is the diagonal of a rectangle with length 3 kilometers and width 1.5 kilometers. This forms a right triangle if we cut this shape in half. And 3 kilometers and 1.5 kilometers are the shorter side, compared to the path itself. So we are looking for the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse squared is equal to 3 squared plus 1.5 squared. Work out the square numbers, add them up, and square root to get the final answer, 3.4 kilometers. Number 5. Determine the height h of the triangle. Round your answer to the nearest tenth of a centimeter. So nearest tenth means 1 decimal place. Take a look at this diagram. This whole triangle itself is not a right triangle, so we can't use Pythagorean theorem. However, because it is a symmetrical shape, meaning if we cut this in half, the left side and the right side are exactly the same, we can pretend that we didn't see this side and work on the right half of the triangle. In here, I know that each side is 10 centimeters at the bottom here. I have C, 15 centimeters. This is the hypotenuse because it's across from the right angle. Then to find the height, I will need to subtract the hypotenuse squared, 15 squared, by the leg squared, 10 squared, and work out my result to be 11.2 centimeters. The next few questions are multiple choice questions. Number 6. A road extends from a corner for farm A to a corner of farm B, as shown. Which is closest to the length of the road? When you do multiple choice questions, don't try to pick from the list. Try to work out the question as if this is not a multiple choice question. Find your answer first and then find the matching letter to circle. So we know the area of these different sides, but that 64 is not the length of this right triangle here. But square root of 64, which is 8 kilometers, will give you the length of this side. Similarly, we're going to square root 25. So this side is 5 kilometers. So the road is the hypotenuse. So you will use the original version of the Pythagorean theorem to calculate C. So the length of the road works out to 9.4 or rounded to 9 kilometers. Question 7 is very similar. Which is closest to the length of the diagonal of this rectangle? Well, the diagonal is the hypotenuse because it's across from the right angle. So you have 60 squared plus 45 squared equals d squared. And then the result is 75 centimeters. The answer is C. Question 8. Which is the closest to the height h of the triangle? If you look at the diagram, you notice that across from the right angle, the hypotenuse is given. Therefore, to find h, we need to subtract the square of the hypotenuse by the square of 15. The answer is 20.6. Because decimal 6 is greater than 5, you round this up to 21 meters. Question 9. Yusuf walked along the diagonal of the playing field at school on his way home instead of walking around the field. The field has dimensions of 90 meters by 120 meters. What distance did he save by taking the shortcut? You should start by drawing a sketch or diagram to show his path. So you can assume that the schoolyard is a rectangle and school is here and his home is here. So by the word diagonal, we know that Yusuf is walking along this distance. And we know that the field is 90 meters by 120 meters. There are 2 steps in this question because the question asks you how much he saved by taking the shortcut as compared to walking along the side of the field. Well, first we need to find the distance of the shortcut or the diagonal, which is the hypotenuse in a right triangle. So d squared is 90 squared plus 120 squared. It works out to 150 meters. But don't stop here, so do not use this answer C. We have to cross it out because this is not the distance saved. To find the distance saved, you need to compare, well, if he walked along 90 and 120, how long would that be? So 90 plus 120 is 210. And then he saved 210 minus 150 meters, which is 60 meters. So the correct answer should be A.